Welcome to the Scandinavian Mind podcast. I'm Conrad Olsson, founder and editor-in-chief of Scandinavian Mind. Today we are revisiting a panel talk that we hosted together with Polestar in Helsinki a few weeks ago. We were invited to co-host Polestar Talks Design, bringing together some of the leading voices in the Finnish design community. What is the role of the designer? What challenges and opportunities are the design community facing today? And what responsibility does the designer have in solving our most pressing issues? These were some of the questions we tried to answer in a series of conversations, the first of which we're going to listen to today. The speakers on today's panel is Laura Juslin, fashion designer and co-founder of Juslin Maunula, and Tej Chauhan, London-born industrial designer working in his own studio in Helsinki. Together, Laura and Tej discuss what responsibilities they have as designers with regards to sustainability, how fashion and architecture can merge into one design experience, and the need for emotive design. They also talk about their advice to young designers entering the business. I had a great time hosting these talks at Polestar's showroom in Helsinki, Finland. I bring you Laura Juslin and Tej Chauhan. Enjoy. As I mentioned, we have so much design talent here tonight, and we have designers from many different disciplines also. So I thought I'd start with you, Laura, because you have a very interesting approach with your studio, working both with fashion and with architecture. Can you explain that to begin with? How does that work?
Yes, my background is in fashion, and I work together with architect Lilli Maunula, and actually it was a creating company Juslin Maunula was a happy coincidence actually, and happened spontaneously. We both studied in Aalto, but multidisciplinarity and finding a new approach to design had been in both in our minds. So everything kind of clicked when we came to talking and decided to try a collaboration together. And from the day one, we knew that we would love to work in fashion, but we wanted to find a new approach to garment and fashion as a whole, because we thought that everything in fashion has been done and seen, and people are looking for more than just the product, that they are looking for full experiences. So that's how we kind of started. We started to create those magical experiences that arise from the connection of garment and the space around it. And we thought that the high-quality spatial design can really evoke feelings, and that's what we wish to do. And that's still the common thread in our work. So we kind of blur the lines between fashion and architecture.
I think it could be helpful maybe give an example of how does because when we started getting to know each other, I couldn't even picture it in my mind. How does a fashion designer and an architect work together to, what does a typical, if there is such a thing, a typical project look like?
Yeah, in practice, the multidisciplinarity means that we are not limited by scale or material. Instead, we are easily able to transform or scale our ideas into a variety of forms, be it like small jewelry or garment or spatial design or anything. And the architect's way of thinking is really strict. The form has to follow the function, whereas fashion needs no explanation. So it can exist just for aesthetic reasons. And our thinking is somewhere between these two extremes, I think.
I still want an example.
It's very difficult to articulate even. It's because we have got some kind of a brainwash from the school. I got some like fashion thinking brainwash, and Lilli from architect school. So it's very difficult to say. We combine these two thinking together. We combine colors and textiles and materials into three-dimensional works that kind of shows the very specific combination of our skills and educations. It's very difficult to describe it.
It's worth noting that you both do projects for clients,
yes.
and you also have your own products.
Yes.
How does that balance look like?
Well, we started with products, actually, and then quite organically we ended up working together with companies. Now we are back to products, actually, because we started to work with sustainability issues. And now the core or the starting point of our work is to find use for discarded material. So that's why we work for both for our own products and with companies. But it's difficult to share the time between the projects.
We're going to get back to your work with sustainability and how you work with dead stock materials and so forth. But I want to invite Tej into the talk here. Tej, you have described your approach to design as emotive industrial design. Tell us what you mean about that.
Well, we try to move beyond the kind of prerequisites of form and function and form following function to focus more on feeling, how an object or an environment makes us feel. We're all visual people, and it's quite an easy concept for all of us to understand this. But my interest is in trying to create feeling through objects, but for broad audiences. So for people like my dad, who's not a designer, but still, he doesn't understand how he responds to something. He just responds to something, and I think most of us are like that, except us, but the other us. And so, I think that the way an object looks and is a big part of that experience. If it doesn't perform a function, it's an ornament. It's if it doesn't work as a piece of functional design, it's not a piece of functional design. So those things are quite obvious for us. But trying to sort of pinpoint what makes somebody take a second look when you're walking past a row of mobile phones, how do you create that kind of focal point? How do you encourage people to, or not encourage, how do you just craft that into what you're doing so that when you walk past something, it's like, whoa, what the fuck is that? Because we work with big clients who, for mass manufacture, right? Millions and millions of units, and they have lots of competitors. And, we design products that will sit on a shelf beside 10 other competitors or 20 other competitors, whether it's a kettle or a toaster or a phone or whatever it is. So, we sat down a few years ago and trying to figure out what are we bringing to this party, what's different, and what is it that we do, and it is that focal point of feeling, trying to strategically craft that into all of the experiences that we create, whether it's a paperclip or whether it's a glass or a table or a phone or a pair of sneakers, it doesn't matter. The process is the same. It's trying to understand how to make people engage.
Maybe it's helpful to give a little bit of a historical context to your career and how you got into this, because you're an industrial designer. People can hear from your accent you're not from here, but you've lived there for quite some time, also working for one of the most iconic Finnish companies, Nokia. Talk a little bit about your career and this type of projects you've done as an independent designer.
Okay. Well, I graduated, I won't tell you when, but it was a long time ago, from St. Martin's in London. And I worked as a freelance designer for 5 years for people like British Airways and The Body Shop and Japanese fashion designer Michiko Koshino and all sorts of different types of projects and stuff that we were doing, but no technology. We hadn't done any technology. Well, I hadn't done any tech in that 5 years after leaving college. So then when Nokia approached and said, can you come for an interview? And yeah, that's quite interesting. let's go and see what that's about. But I'd be used to working for myself for 5 years. I didn't want to wake up at 9, get to an office for 9 o'clock and leave at 6 o'clock. I don't work in that way. But I went, and the interview was great. We met so many nice people there, and I thought, I could do this. I'll do it for a year or two, and if I don't like it, I'll just leave. And then I was there for like almost 6 years, and so then I left. I set up my own practice in 2005, and we started doing a lot of consumer tech, and now I run that practice, and we have clients like Nike and Lexus and Tesco and small startups, small companies, big companies. So we do all sorts of stuff from big hospitality projects to watches and eyewear. And
throughout the course of your career, and you mentioned your approach with emotive design, how has that changed during the years when you've been working as an independent designer?
I would say it's developed. I think that was always there, because I think part of the fun of designing is creative expression, and understanding how to channel that in a commercial sense. That's an ongoing process. That has started off 25 years ago and is still continuing. But even at Nokia, we were talking very much about experiences, and we were talking about it's not just about that. It's about what goes with it. It's the packaging, it's the story, it's the narrative, it's the accessories, it's the whole situation, right? And easy way to an easy example is with Apple. I'm talking about experiences. You have you have the packaging. Which is a real waste of packaging, by the way. And then you have this beautiful object. And then you have a piece of software which kind of immerses you in that kind of world. So, and we've just been sort of developing on that over 20 years to what was the original question, man?
I think you nailed it. We're going to keep talking about the role of the designer. And Laura, I want to have you talk about the work with sustainability. But before I ask you that, can you recognize yourself in what Tej is saying, that it is about creating an experience? Because that's got to be a part of combining fashion and architecture.
Yeah, I think the experience comes from the combination of our specific skills and the specific educations. That's how we started. We knew that we needed more than just the product, that we needed something around the product. Yeah, that's how it all began.
So talk about this recent pivot to, you mentioned to me beforehand that you're like 100% working with sustainability right now, specifically in making dead stock fabrics come alive. Can you describe how this came about and why you've gone so full on into it?
Yeah, because during previous years, the fashion companies have been dealing with the issue of what to do with unsold, unwanted products and dead stock fabrics. And if it's really expensive to store those, and if they don't sell, what can be done with the products that no one seems to want? So we tackled this issue already a couple of years ago. But then 1 year ago, a Finnish interior textile company contacted us and asked what could they do with the massive stock of discarded textile. They had thousands of meters, kilometers of fabrics, really high quality, but they were from 90s and 80s, so no one wanted to. Those were not appealing anymore for a client or for them either. So we took a challenge to design an interior textile collection out of those fabrics with random colors, random style, random amount. And the obvious starting point for the design process was it was a really strict limitation of working with what was available for us. So we started to combine. We wanted to create visual effects of lights and shadows through combining similar colors in different degrees of darknesses, all from a really limited amount of colors. And I think through correct proportions of textile and colors, we managed to elevate even the least attractive fabrics into beautiful products. So I feel that our design gave a genuine new purpose to the discarded material. And the material could be from the construction industry as well, the industry that generates the most waste. For example, my bag here is made of stainless steel mesh that is used for keeping pests from ventilation and away from your home. So I'm very sure that all materials like wood, glass, paper, rubber, we could definitely turn those into something beautiful. So that's how we are going to continue the design work from now on.
Has this changed the way you view your role as a designer, working so much with dead stock materials or recycled materials?
I would say that we are looking for problems in a way. Like we used to start with products, the concept, of course, but then we had a product in mind, and then we looked for a material that is as sustainable as possible, and then we created a product. But nowadays, we are going to the problem, like what can we do for this waste problem? So the starting point is a bit different. So we don't want to create products, but we want to find new uses for discarded materials.
Tej, I know you've been involved with projects also, and you can talk about this to the extent you can in terms of the client, but I know you've been involved with projects that have specific sort of sustainability preconditions. Can you talk about how that changes your perspective on creating something?
Yeah, I mean, whenever you start work on a brief, you need to understand the kind of parameters with which you're working, and so you know like where the boundaries are and where you can push and where you can challenge those boundaries, right? So we were doing a big project for a big UK telco, last year, creating a whole sort of DNA system for all of their routers and all of these things that you're going to find in most UK homes. And but they were very strict in terms of the kind of materials they wanted to use. And on the one hand, we could only use certain types of plastics. On the other hand, they were saying, "Oh, but can you be innovative with the material?" And I'm like, "Well, fucking hell, make your mind up." It's like there was some types of plastic we could use, but we were also trying to encourage them to use materials they wouldn't have thought of before, like those recycled sheets with different colors and cork and all this kind of stuff that you wouldn't normally find in a technology project. So I would say that it has worked with varying success on that project. But we're doing a packaging project at the moment. I'm really interested in like how to create premium packaging experiences, like an Apple experience, but without all that horrific waste. I mean, I still cannot understand Apple packaging. There's a whole manufacturing line that is built with moldings just for the packaging, which you then bin. I don't understand how that works these days. So, we're doing a little bit of work around that at the moment as well. So,
we are soon running out of time, but I wanted to get the chance to have your to talk to maybe a younger generation of designers. We have some students here tonight. I know. What would any advice or just recommendations or tips be to young designers going into the industry today? Maybe Tej, you wanna start.
I think we're always learning. We're still, every one of us is still learning. So life is just one meandering journey, and kind of design life is like that as well. The one thing I would say is kind of figure out what you enjoy doing and what you're good at, and kind of learn how to do that really well, and learn how to talk about what you do, because part of what we're doing is spreading the message of what we're good at and how we can bring value somehow to the people that we collaborate with and work with.
Laura, how about you?
Challenge the convention. You should recreate how the product is experienced, and I think it's good if the product or concepts have an element of surprise, and this is easy to achieve through the use of unconventional materials, for example, or you should look at the materials and colors without preconceived notions of how they should be paired. And I would also say that it's good to kind of follow the phenomena, not to be on trend, but to avoid being too trendy. So it's very good to know what has been made, what is now, and what could be, and understand the connection. And through that knowledge, you can create your own world and have something to say, I would say.
That was a much better answer.
Do your homework, kind of. Laura Juslin, Tej Chauhan, thank you so much for sharing your insights.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Scandinavian Mind podcast with me, Conrad Olsson. This show was edited by Erik Sedin. If you liked what you heard, follow us on your preferred podcast app like Spotify or Apple Podcasts. To get the latest news, insights, and invites to upcoming events, sign up to our newsletter. Just go to scandinavianmind.com to become part of our movement.